So, Greg, let's dive into it. First things first, there is one guy that I said to Ben yesterday, I probably boost his exposure down. Now, I don't know where he's going to end up at, and it's still very early in the week, but Jaden Daniels is one of those guys that I'm not in love with this week. I am, however, in love with Brian Robinson. I may make some executive decisions here and lean heavy in the run game for Washington. What do you think about this spot against Dallas?
I mean, this Dallas team right now is a disaster. There's no, at least I don't think there's any way Mike McCarthy's going to be back as the head coach
He won't.
next year.
He won't.
There's no Dak Prescott for what appears to be the rest of the season. And then on top of it, you just have this team that even when they were healthy, they didn't perform all that well this year. So this seems like a team that's primed to quit down the stretch, quit on Mike McCarthy, just quit on the team overall in general. And then what I think also is going to end up happening, not say it necessarily starts this week, but we're going to start to see the Cowboys play some of the younger players and get them more run. And maybe somebody like Micah Parsons isn't playing down the stretch of the season. And just because of how poorly the Cowboys have played and the amount of injuries they're dealing with, this is a game that I don't think Washington should have that many problems winning. And Brian Robinson, $5,600. He has split the workload a little bit more with Austin Eckler as of late, but a lot of that has been because of just game scripts favoring Austin Eckler. Like the primetime game the other week, or last week, I should say, against the Eagles, they were trailing for a lot of that game, and Eckler got a lot of passing game work. If this is a game that they are ahead, like you and I are expecting, then it's going to be Brian Robinson on the field running the ball in the fourth quarter. It's not going to be Austin Eckler catching passes.
That's the way I see it too. Now, again, is Jaden Daniels a bad play here? No, he's not super expensive. There aren't any quarterbacks that jump off the page either, but there are a few that look pretty good this week. And, I think one of the spots we can start with building this out in the single lineup sim would be Mahomes, Geno, Tua, Baker Mayfield against the Giants looks good if we get Mike Evans back. And I think there's a good chance he'll be, they didn't put him on the IR. They anticipated him coming back after the bye. If he was going on the, if he wasn't coming back, I would have just thought that they would have, that it would have been like, all right, put him on the IR if he's not coming back after the bye, if we're not going to utilize that time. Where do you want to start, though?
And also, by the way, the other side of the game, you've got some potentially interesting builds you could do with Tommy DeVito, who, not that I think he's any good, but he's the flat minute 4K, and it stands to reason he's going to be throwing the ball a lot to Malik Neighbors. So you do have a situation there where pass-friendly game script for the Giants and a super cheap team. But where I actually want to start, I was just kind of throwing him out because he's flat man. Where I want to start, well, let's build a Tua lineup because this team to me is still not priced appropriately. They have a great matchup against the Patriots, and the offense has been better since Tua's come back. We've got the Dolphins actually in the playoff mix now, but we never saw the prices go up. Tyreek Hill is still $7,200. Jalen Waddle's $5,300 now. I really like heavy Dolphin stacks.
All right. There's also multiple ways you can do it because Devon Achane in the passing game is 100%. My best lineup in the power sweep was a Tua lineup with Achane and Hill. Or no, it might have actually been Achane, Hill, and Jonnu Smith. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. You can go Jonnu here, who actually looks good again this week. He's been the number 3 in this in the passing game, ahead of Jalen Waddle with Tua Tagovailoa out there. You can go Tyreek Hill, who is still very reasonably priced, and you can plug Achane in. Achane is the most viable running back in team stack builds that there is in the entire league right now. Aside, honestly, maybe more than Christian McCaffrey.
I would say Kamara and McCaffrey ahead of Achane, but Achane's been great and he's involved in the passing game. I mean, he got 4 targets last week. Off the top of my head, I think he's had at least 4 targets, and at least 4 targets in the last 4 games now, which is relevant because that coincides with the time that Tua has been back. And then at the start of the year when Tua was active, 7 targets against Jacksonville, 7 targets against Buffalo. So he's very involved in the passing game. Also, the efficiency has been crazy in terms of the amount of the targets he catches. 51 targets this year for Devon Achane. He's caught 46 of them. So
and without Tua in a lot of those games. The reason I put him above Alvin Kamara is because quarterbacks don't get rewarded for completions that go for 3 yards, right? Quarterbacks don't get rewarded for an 8 reception game from a running back where he racks up like 40 yards. With Achane, like the amount of receiving touchdown equity that he has and just big playmaking potential in the passing game is really significant. Like, you know, you look at him on the season, he has 3 receiving touchdowns, and you had all of them come in games where Tagovailoa was active. So that's the only reason. It doesn't matter. We're splitting hairs here. But I think we both agree that he makes for a great piece if you ever want to stack the Dolphins.
Yep. Yeah, there's 4 different guys that you could reasonably look at for stacking options. And we've gone overall. Now, Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith, and there's nobody else from the Dolphins that I'd be stacking with Tua outside of that, but I think all those guys are good options.
All right, so how do you want to do it? Tua, I assume you want Tyreek Hill in there as well?
Yeah, and I know that Waddle hasn't had the best fantasy season, but I really like this as a buy low spot for him. He is all the way down to $5,300 and projected for, 7% ownership, Waddle? Yeah, $5,300 and 7% ownership.
So do you want to fade Achane and Jonnu Smith in this?
In this one lineup, unless we wanted to do a triple stack.
All right, let's try it. I don't think triple stacking this team is crazy either.
No, it's a good matchup against New England. And once again, they're not that expensive. Jalen Waddle is a guy who, at least in the past, we've seen him be as expensive as, $7,900 or something like that last season.
Let's
take Achane out of the lineup, Jordan.
Let's leave him in. Why don't we try to triple
stack?
Why not?
Okay.
You look at last week, there were so many potential spots where the triple stack for Detroit just wins everything. And it ultimately ended up being in the Millie, I believe, a double stack with Jameson and Amon-Ra. But like a Montgomery or Gibbs wasn't killing you there. That triple stack could have gone off. This could be a spot where Miami puts up big numbers. I already looked at the Sims. Triple stacks are grading out well for this team. Let's just give it a shot.
Okay. Yeah, we could go with all of these guys together. And you don't have to do Patriots run backs, although with that said, there are some players who look like decent values from the New England side of the game. The one issue that I have with this team, though, is last week, I don't even feel like we were wrong when we talked about it because it was just factual at the time. The Patriots were leaning on their young guys, and Kendrick Bourne 2 weeks ago, he was a DNP. He was active, but he didn't step on the field. And I felt really good about playing some of the younger wide receivers from the Patriots. And what happens, the game starts, it shows up on Red Zone, and it's just Kendrick Bourne catches a touchdown pass. He's running wide open down the field. I'm like, what happened? Why was he? I don't even understand. Why was he not playing 2 weeks ago, and then he becomes a featured guy the week after that? There just wasn't any consistency to it. That kind of makes it hard for me to trust some of these Patriots guys. My favorite run back, if I had to pick one, is Butte, but it's just hard to trust what the Patriots' plans are.
I agree with everything you said, but I think Kayshon Boutte is still viable.
Yeah. I think he's viable, and if I had to pick somebody, it would be him. But I'm also concerned with, Kendrick Bourne being the leading receiver last week and getting 5 targets. Kendrick Bourne could just as easily be a DNP again this week. It's just really hard for me to know what to make of the Patriots situation. Let me see. What do we do for projections on the Patriots, guys?
By the way, while you look that up, here's why I want to play Boutte in this lineup. It's not even because it's a run back. It's because he's dirt cheap. He's played 96% of snaps or more in 3 straight. He's had 6+ targets in 3 straight, and he's running routes on essentially every drop back that you have. So no, the performance hasn't been exactly where you'd want it to be. And that's, unfortunate. But at that price point, you simply aren't going to find that type of value elsewhere. Like a 6-target guy playing every single snap that you see and running a route on every drop back. Last week, for example, he ran routes on 45 dropbacks. The only other one that was close to him was Hunter Henry. No other receiver was even remotely close. Is he targeted on a ton of those? No, but that was 45 of 46 dropbacks, $3,500. If you're seeing that much playing time, to me at 3,500, and you just get then we're naturally plugging him in as a run back where we think they're going to have to throw, and you likely see another potential 50 dropbacks for Drake May. I say we just plug him in here and see what happens.
And we do have Kendrick Bourne projected to play again this week. He currently as the third Patriots wide receiver. We have Abute 1, Demario Douglas 2, and then we've got Bourne 3, and then Polk right now 4. He's been terrible, though. He's been one of the worst wide receivers in football. I actually think that's one of the reasons, probably more so than anything, that Bourne ended up playing is because the times that they've given Polk playing time, it's gone so poorly that I think maybe they feel he just isn't really ready to be a featured wide receiver yet. But either way, like I said, if I had to roster one guy from the Patriots, it would be Butte. I just don't want to go crazy with Patriots pass catcher exposure because I don't trust what it is that they're doing right now. My favorite run back overall from New England actually is Ramondre Stevenson, because Stevenson is somebody who doesn't seem to have any issues with Antonio Gibson being around anymore. Earlier in the season, there was that time where, if you remember, Stevenson had some fumble issues and they actually started Gibson over Stevenson one game. And Stevenson had a much better game than Gibson that day anyway and played more snaps, had more touches. And now, as of late, it's just been all Stevenson. Stevenson had 20 carries and 4 targets last week. He had 20 carries the week before. The game before that, he was targeted 5 times in the past. The game only had 10 rushing attempts, 20 carries the game before that. So over 20 touches in 3 out of the last 4 games for Stevenson now.
I have no issues with Stevenson. My only pushback is that I like Brian Robinson better at that price. If Pacheco doesn't play, I like Kareem Hunt significantly better at the same price. So he'd still really only be like my 3rd or 4th favorite running back sub 6K.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not my favorite running back by any stretch of the imagination. He's just my favorite run back from the Patriots.
Sure. All right. Why don't we though? We need to open it up a little bit somewhere. Bootie's 3,500. If you wanted to run it back with 2 of these guys, we could, but I don't think we need to. All I'm saying is, like, if you go Kayshon Boutte and Bears defense, we have 6,100 for the last 3 players, which opens us up to like Travis Kelce at tight end. If you want to try Stevenson here, we can, and we can get rid of Kayshon Boutte.
Let's see. What are the other running backs that I would want to be playing on the slate?
I also just don't see a lot at all value at the wide receiver position that you're going to like, unless you like Devon Vele or guys like that. Like, there's just not a lot of good options down here.
Yeah, for pay up running backs, we've got McCaffrey, we've got Joe Mixon. You could go to Jonathan Taylor. I don't really love Taylor against the Lions, but he is somebody who's a potential option. So yeah, we don't have to go Stevenson here. Let's leave it open, but let's plug in the defense just so
I like Bears.
Bears, yeah, Bears are 2,500. Let's see, what are some of the other cheap ones? The Giants are 2,400. Yeah, I agree with you. I'd rather roster the Bears. Yeah, we'll just plug in the Bears. Doesn't matter.
What do you think about Brian Robinson here?
We could go to Brian Robinson for sure. We've got Brian Robinson at $5,600. Yeah, there's a lot of viable running backs in that 5 to 6K range. Stevenson is still absolutely one of them. Kenneth Walker, 6,900. James Conner, 6,500. Kareem Hunt, if Pacheco was to be out, he's $5,700.
And we have Pacheco out right now, so I can tell you guys, if we wanted to make this lineup go nuts, plug Kareem Hunt in, and that would really work. But that's only because we don't know right now. What I'm saying, Greg, the clear spot here, based on our projections currently on a Wednesday morning, is to plug in Kareem Hunt.
Yes, I am a little nervous. We'll see once we build out lineups. I'm a little nervous, though, that because we have Pacheco out, lineups that don't have Kareem Hunt, it's just going to kill some of their sim ROI. Here might be a fun way to do it. Let's put Brian Robinson in for now. We'll build the lineup. We'll sim it, assuming it has at least $100 in salary left on the table.
I like
we'll sim
that.
it again with Kareem Hunt.
Yep, I like that. And I want to throw Kelsey in at tight end. I like this as a nice bounce back spot against Carolina.
Yeah, that was a terrible Travis Kelsey game last week.
Oh, God, it was brutal. 6,800 remaining. What do you think here? You could go Connor. You could go Jacobs. Jacobs actually projects really well this week against San Francisco.
Let's see. Who's projected the best there of all the guys?
Jacobs,
Jacobs.
which
Let's
is fine
go.
on a triple stack. I'm not worried about leaving salary.
Let's go Connor.
Okay.
And then we could we'll switch Robinson to Kareem Hunt afterwards to just see what a difference it makes.
If we switch him to Kareem Hunt, it's going to be the highest simmed ROI we've ever gotten on this show, I think.
Well, this one
And
actually simmed out really well, so let's see.
I think this will be the highest simmed ROI we've ever seen in the 12 weeks of doing this show, Greg. I'm telling you right now, this will be it. This will be, we will never come close to achieving such greatness on this show as we will with this. I better be fucking right about this. I mean, what I told you.
Yeah. I think that I don't even remember honestly, even the last lineup we built might have been higher than any of the other ones that we've had so far this year.
It's very possible. And all right, so this is nuts. I did not look at anything on our Sims as far as individual lineups go, right? Nothing until right now. As I said that, when I ran the Sims on my end, the number one simmed lineup out of 10,000 is the exact lineup you and I just built, except Cardinals defense instead of the Bears. That is the only difference.
Interesting.
We just built the top simmed lineup without looking at it.
Yeah, that's crazy coincidence because it's actually nearly impossible.
I know. I know. The only difference is Cardinals defense. That's it. I assume the Cardinals defense is the same price as the Bears then?
Or it might just be a little bit more expensive because we have some leftover salary.
Oh, because we went Kareem Hunt instead. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And how about that? Finally, not a two tight end lineup coming up top.
That's true. That's true. There's also going to be, when the sim ROIs are that high, there's going to be some variance to it because this lineup projected out really, really well. But then it's just on the sims. How many times does it come in first place? How many times does it come in second place?
Right.
So that's going to alter the sim ROIs to some degree. But either way, clearly a really strong lineup.